Welcome to The Point. I am your host, Eric Mitchell. Welcome to this Tuesday, October 27th. Hopefully you had a great day and you're here to enjoy this evening with us. We're great to have you here. Election. That's what's in the news. I'm kind of just saving it for later in the week as we get through it. Every day goes by, these candidates just go at themselves. And just like I talked about on our Friday show, it's bananas the fact that we're consistently dealing with this drama, with this just drama. Nobody wants to solve America's problems, do they? They're just like, hey, we don't like each other, but we're really not going to fix anything here. COVID, schmovid. Yeah, man, we don't need to worry about it. But let's get this nomination to the Supreme Court. You don't need a stimulus package. Y'all be fine. If y'all living in boxes, you can have a box community. That's how it kind of feels like to me. Why do we not care about small business owners? We always take care of those at the top. We never look out for the middle guys or the little guys. That's the American dream. It's not what I signed up for, but hey, that's what we're living, folks. Got a great show for you, so I just want to get to the show today. It's Tuesday. It's just been one of those days in the news, so not a lot of comments. Great Monday night game. Just fabulous, just good football season. Everything's going great, so no complaints there. So let's get to today's guests. I'm excited for both of them. You've seen our guest before. Mr. Mike Burt is joining us. He's going to talk about e-commerce and the holidays, which is interesting, right? We're all talking about COVID and shipping and remote life and how businesses can be targeting during Black Friday. That's something we need to start talking about. You've probably heard Walmart is going to be doing Black Fridays 3 Fridays in November. A lot of folks that have been on air and a lot of folks that I'm talking to are saying you should actually be starting your Black Friday now. You're like, Eric, it's October 27th. It's a little late in the game. You can start now. Just start now. You got plenty of time. Just get something together right after Veterans Day. You'll be good. Because the next 10 days is just an absolute poop show. A week from today, we'll be electing a new president. And I hope we can actually do it on today. That's what is going to be interesting. A week from the day, folks. Let that settle in. Let's just take a minute. A week from today. It's intense. It's great. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we make a change, but we may keep the same one. If not, America will continue on. She is might, she is great, she's mighty, and she can hang with anything. We don't freak out here in America. We just get the job done. Now, we do need to make America great again. We just need to make it great once. She hasn't been great so far. We've treated people of color and women like absolute crap, and we don't even need to start on how we treated Native Americans. So make sure we're using this voting right so we can actually make some change. Social justice needs to take place. Social change needs to take place. It's time for once and for all for us to actually believe in we the people. And that we the people mean all of us. That's what November 3rd means to me. So voting so we can actually make some change so everybody has a seat at the table. Not just said they have a seat at the table, but are treated differently. We don't need that anymore. Come on, folks. We can do better. So, like I said, today's guest is Mike Burt and Kevin Schumacher. I'm excited to have both. Mike Burt, as you guys know, is going to be here talking about e-commerce and Black Friday. He is amazing. He's helped launch an apparel brand and brought them a multi-million dollars. He's amazing. He's the brains behind that operation. Now he is running the marketing team at an amazing company out of Orlando, healthcare side of the field. But he's got some amazing insight into how you can do your e-commerce. And then Kevin Schumacher is an executive producer, has a new series out. He's going to tell us how you can help with it. It's a crowdfunding. It's pretty epic. And he has a production studio. Basically, it's right in the left lane. So or left and the right lane, go figure. He's gonna be there and share a lot of information about what's going on. He lives in South Carolina. He has an adopted son that is an African-American boy, young, has to deal with a lot of racism, and that breaks my heart. So when we talk to Kevin, we're gonna talk about that. So we have two amazing guests today. I'm excited for both of them. So let's get to the point with our first guest today. And when we come back from the break, we'll have that first guest for you. So see you guys after the break. Welcome to the show, Mike. How you doing today, bud?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it. Happy to be back here.
It's always good to have you here. I figured we'd bring you in as we are, it's hard to believe I'm going to use this sentence, getting closer to the end of October. And that means it must be not election season. Anybody out there trying to finish that sentence before me? No, I'm not talking about November 3rd. I'm talking about the holiday season, something you know a lot about. E-commerce is huge. Black Friday is around the corner. Of course, Christmas, people start buying everything. And 2020 has become that remote life that we all are doing. So many e-com businesses out there. We've seen companies like Amazon, Walmart, Lowe's, their online orders are keeping them in business. I mean, and obviously you're seeing it at malls too, but we're talking about e-commerce. So wanted to have you on to kind of talk about what businesses can prepare for. And we're probably thinking, if you're watching this right now and you haven't prepared, it's a little late in the game, but you know, things that people can do. So what do you see this season that's going to be different than any season before when it comes to e-commerce and this holiday season for shopping?
Boy, I'll tell you, like you just said there, if somebody has not already started their holiday planning, you are in trouble. You're late, you're behind the curve, and you better get on it. With COVID this year, we know people are inside. Even though we're starting to come out of that, hopefully, and we're seeing, the end of that, COVID drove people to understand more how convenient online shopping is and how nice it is to not have to go out and drive anywhere and fight crowds, and fight through anything to get to a store to get to your deal. It can just be dropped off right at your house, and how convenient it is. So this is going to be a huge year for e-commerce, and a lot of e-commerce brands out there are looking forward to it, but there's going to be a lot of trouble too, I think, this year that they need to start planning for right now. With it being so busy, shipping is going to be a big issue for folks.
So let's talk about that. You mentioned that before we started, and I really wanted to. So shipping, something that I know at the beginning of COVID, and that decade note is March. I remember we also went into shock when Amazon dared to tell us that we couldn't get our products in 2 days, that we'd have to wait maybe even 30, which put us back in what was the Stone Age to us 4 years ago. So now, what exactly can we expect with shipping? Are we going to expect long delays? Are there less people? Are the flights affected? I mean, obviously the airline industry is deeply affected by COVID. So are you saying this is going to bleed over to shipping? Kind of break that down, because this is the first I'm hearing that there's going to be issues with shipping, because that seems kind of crazy. They know this is coming. I mean, holiday season.
It's it's an afterthought for most people thinking of their shipping. Is it going to come on time? People are used to going online and just ordering and, tell me when it's going to get here. Wall Street Journal reported just 2 days ago that UPS and FedEx are right now reporting that their shipping capacity is already 100% spoken for. So there is no additional capacity right now through the end of the year. They're already at full. The big ones, Amazon, and then you have the U.S. Post Office. Amazon has the ability to add more drivers, add more of their own capacity, but that's going to pull away from e-commerce website sales. If you're probably dependent on UPS, FedEx, and whatever the post office decides to do, Amazon can step in and just hire up more drivers and drive their shipping times down. You stand a chance of losing a lot of your sales over to Amazon if you're not working through them yourself. But again, they're already saying they're expecting this year a net overage of 7 million packages a day in the holiday season through the end of the year that won't have anyone to ship them, that are going to be waiting. So if you're one of these brands out there right now thinking about Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and that's when we're going to do our big sales and big push, I think you're late and you're making a mistake, and you risk people not getting their orders by Christmas.
Yeah,
if I had a recommendation,
go ahead.
I would start soon. I would start now. There's brands out there, the big guys, Target, Best Buy, some of these folks who are going after Amazon with their online ordering, who have the ability for you to place it online and then go pick up. They're already putting money into this, and they're starting their sales early. If you're an e-commerce brand, I would do my Black Friday sales before. I would get rolling. I would start getting ready right now for the holidays. If you wait too long, your people are going to miss Christmas. And if you miss Christmas for people, they're never going to come back to you.
Never. And you're right. And I was looking, and I have a stat from Forrester that said that online retail is growing over 18.5% this year, and that'll reach over 20.2% overall penetration here in North America. Online sales for retailers in popular gifting categories will get a boost this season, with health and beauty up over 23%, consumer electronics rising 20%, fashion up 19%, and home furnishings growing by 16% by year's end. That is amazing and concerning with everybody spoken for. And I did see that Black Friday, the actual Black Friday, Walmart is doing it over the entire 3 weekends of November. They're not doing an actual day. And I think it's right. I think this is the first year you're going to see people forced to go to the mall. If the shipping kind of keeps up, people are going to want to make sure their product arrives on time, and we no longer have that guarantee, which I don't know about
if they're
you.
able to. If you don't know, City of Chicago, the suburbs in Chicago, I think announced today that they're taking a step backwards in COVID security. So the collar counties around Chicago have announced no more indoor dining now because cases have been rising.
Oh, wow.
We're getting into the winter with flu season. There is going to be additional illnesses. So who knows? It's unpredictable what the COVID situation could be between now and the end of the year. It seems like it's over, but if there's a big explosion in cases, you're not going to be able to go to the mall to get your stuff, right? So I don't know that everywhere in the country is going to have the option to go pick something up, or just, if I can't get it online, go to the mall.
Right. And it's going to be interesting. It's Christmas shopped out, right? Mm-hmm. Get it over with now, buy all the things now, because you're just going to get in. Don't be a last second. I think that's the big thing that we can both take away from here. Yeah. And it's what I loved it when we were talking about, having you on and what topics we were talking about. This is real. The fact that Chicago, the third largest market in the country, and you look all around, everybody else is doing the same thing. I mean, we're seeing it at the mall. I'm shocked. We claim we have COVID and we have issues. Yeah, we're wearing masks, but we're slamming into each other in the shoulders. I mean, our mall, and we have teenagers, so teenagers still go to malls, and ours, of course, go. So they can't go to school and be around each other, but they can sure all go to malls together. Our malls here look like it's madness. It's like it's Christmas every weekend. I mean, the parking lot's full, people roaming around, getting out of their house. I mean, you live where it snows and rains all the time, just like I do once we hit that winter time. It's a place to go. To take that away from people and then say, let's add in the holiday season and you have to depend on online. I mean, so, okay, we've said all these nightmares. What's the workaround? Is there anything that you can do as a small business owner if you're like, okay, we're not going to hit Christmas, there's that chance? Do you have a backup plan that you save face, whether it be a discount, a post? I've seen some brands do that. I'm not going to name the name, but I've seen folks that have gone on Fox and Friends, and they're like, look, we had record sales, and they made this post. They're like, look, because of you, we're so grateful. We had, we're running behind because we weren't expecting you guys to love what we do so much. And basically do that and then give 5% off your order if you went and ordered it, but you understood 6 to 8 weeks. And you and I both remember when Black Rifle did that, when right after the election they did that cool little go after Starbucks thing, which was amazing for marketing. It was a genius move for those guys. And they had to put out that we're about 6 to 8 weeks behind. And nobody, they survived, but they were honest. They fell on the sword, gave a discount, and knew that their business would still survive.
I think that's one of the things you're going to have to do. And I would get ahead of this right now and start talking to your customers now about the problems that are coming. None of us can control what happens with shipping, in our businesses. None of us are Amazon. We don't own our own shipping. You're an e-commerce brand like anyone else. You make your orders. You're going to put it in your shipping bag and then take it to, the post office or your shipper, whoever it is, and then it's out of your hands. Your customers are going to blame you if it's late, right? So we don't have control over that. We do have control over messaging, though. And you need to get out in front right now and let people know. And I would, again, start your sales early. Yeah. Why do you have to do Black Friday on Black Friday?
Yeah.
Get it going now. Your customers are looking for it. They're going to buy. You already know right now what your sales probably are going to be for the holiday season. So instead of booking it at the end of November, book those sales at the beginning of November and then ride out the holidays.
Yeah.
Second suggestion I would have on top of messaging, if you want to keep sales going, you got to let people know, like, hey, if you want to order, we're certainly happy to take your money and we're going to place this order for you. Let them know when it's going to arrive. You have to be very clear that it's going to miss, and offer the option, right? Because nobody wants to get nothing for Christmas or say, hey, I ordered you this thing and it's going to be cool when you get it, but Merry Christmas, right? Sell gift cards instead if you can, and give somebody the option to come back then to make their purchases in January, February. Do something different. Right now, I would get my sales going early here in November, because the other guys are already doing it. And if you're going to run paid campaigns, CPMs are already on the way up. We got the election that's closing out, so the politicians are throwing money into paid. So it's already expensive, but it's going up right now as people are gearing up for holidays.
Oh, absolutely.
Get it going now and get ahead of the curve as much as you can. Otherwise, you're going to be too late. And your customers, if you're honest with them, maybe they forgive you, but people are kind of unforgiving in the Christmas season, right? It's a stressful time. It's been a stressful year. Nobody's going to have patience for failure.
That's true. I think before you go, the one thing that I think we both can agree on, besides making sure that you're upfront, you make sure your customer service team knows the people that they're going to be dealing with and takes it with kindness and not take everything personal. It's been a year for a lot of us. And remember, we haven't talked about it because we're not talking politics right now, but November 3rd is happening and people are going to be buying things and going through that process, which we've all been. It's very clear that this election will not be resolved. I'm saying it won't be resolved. The earliest it'll be resolved is the end of this year, and I would think that would happen right before Christmas or right after. I mean, we have a run-up date to January 20th, no matter what. I mean, it could go past that. I mean, on the 20th, they lock the doors, and the only person who can go in and be the president is Nancy Pelosi, because that's just what the Constitution says.
Yeah.
So,
we'll see. It's been a horrible year for everybody. We're all stressed and on edge.
So
everybody's on edge about the election.
So how do we keep customer service good? How do we keep customer service
50% of everybody's
up?
going to be mad.
Yeah, true.
Half of the country's going to be upset at whatever happens in the election, whoever ends up being the winner. So, take it all with a grain of salt if you can. It's a stressful time in the country, but you businesses out there, I'd get ahead of the curve here. Get ahead of this.
I love it.
Don't wait.
Awesome. So, Mike, it's been great catching up with you. Always good to get good insight. This has been great. So, brands, if you're out there, make sure you're paying attention. Check out Mike. Follow him on LinkedIn. We'll put his LinkedIn link so you can connect with him. And he does drop witty comments all the time on LinkedIn that are really good.
I'm a top 52 million account follow.
Right there. I mean, come on.
That kind of...
It's huge.
Those kind of numbers don't just happen by accident.
Huge. You're going to get a blue check mark next.
Genius. I mean, honestly.
You and Elon Musk together. It's fabulous. We'll have to do that. But we'll have to have you back. I want you back on a Thursday show. We'll talk. We need to have you on our sports talk just because I think you should be a regular on that with us. And we'd have a lot of fun talking sports and not have to talk about business because it's more fun talking sports.
Well, I like talking sports too. As long as we all agree to hate the Patriots.
That's not hard to do. They're my favorite COVID team. I love that they're losing. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy in all the places it should. The Patriots.
That's what I said. They're below 500 for the first time since 2001, I think.
Makes me great. And you see Belichick showing up. His hair's all a crap show. I love
that
it.
out on my social media and said, no matter how your team season is going, this is something we can all come together and enjoy.
Amen. So awesome. I want to thank you for joining us. Everybody else, we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to The Point. I'm Eric Mitchell, and we have an amazing guest with us today, and you see him here too. Hold on, if I do cameras the right way. Look at that. There's my guest right there. Hey, it's Kevin Schumacher. Kevin, how are you today?
I am great. I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
It's great to have you here. Interesting time in our world. 2020 kind of hit us with everything, COVID, social justice, and an election. And
Yes.
all of them are bad, and none of them are good. For those of us who are playing at home, we
Well,
know...
actually, I like elections.
Which one?
I like elections right now.
You do? I like and I hate them. I've already voted. I'm very proud of that.
Good job.
I was very safe voting. No one intimidated me. My envelope had a prepaid stamp on it, and I put it in its security fold. I used this very pen to place my vote. It felt good. And I think other people need to do that. And I think this election is great because I think it's brought more of us together through all different creeds and cultures. But before we go down that road, Kevin, because we could go down that, and everybody knows when they watch the show with me, that's a rabbit hole. When we go down, we're going down a rabbit hole. But before we get there, I want to let the folks at home know they know me, but they don't know you. So Kevin, briefly kind of share who you are and how you don't say how you got here on the show. We already know how you did that, but that's by going to booking at tothepointtv.com. In case you're playing at home, that's how you get booked on our show. But Kevin, tell us how you got where you're at and what you do so people understand when we start going down this rabbit hole, it makes sense.
Sure. Today, I'm a movie producer, short film producer. But how I got here was I sold an apparel company about 4 years ago. And when I finished that sale, I decided to take a step back and spend more time with my kids, but also to create something that gave back. I had the opportunity to not work for a few years. I didn't have to earn money for a few years. So I created The Smallest Deed, which is based on a quote from John Burroughs: "The smallest deed is greater than the best intention." And that's because I had dreams and big ideas, but didn't always pursue them. And I was determined that if I had an idea, I was going to pursue it. If I had a friend who needed help, I was going to do that and take action because I had the luxury to be able to try those things. And so I created a company called The Smallest Deed. You might like this. One of the first things I did was help a friend of mine who'd been deployed to Iraq. His name was Colonel Brian Hernandez, one of the most incredible people I've met in my life so far. And he had a huge platoon of troops that he wanted shirts and apparel for, and I did all of that at cost. So I just bought the materials, got it printed, and handled all the orders and did that. It was about, ironically, 2-3 weeks worth of work, even though I'd been in the apparel industry. It was very difficult to handle all the military specs and everything. And I continued down that path, doing different things that I thought would make a difference. Not going into too much, but I worked in an education company. I worked to create a memory system for elementary kids for multiplication tables. And I tried to create a low sugar soda, just experimenting with a few things, and finally landed on this. I had the idea of creating sketches sketch comedy that made fun of Trump when he was younger. And you would like that. But as we looked at that idea, we decided that once I did that, I brought on a friend of mine, Darian McLeod, to help out with this. He's an actor, producer here in Columbia, South Carolina. And we decided that had nowhere to go. So we wanted to create a series so that we could relate our ideas to people about race, about politics, and get people to see something while they're laughing at a comedy. So we tried several things. We had an idea ready to go in March when COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And with that, we had to just start over. And so that's how we got where we are today.
So I love this so much because when we talk about it now, you started your series, the Smallest Deed, which I think is important in 2020 because we're in a place where people could get in some pretty dark places real fast where you feel alone. I know I've suffered through that. A lot of people do. It's really easy. You're kept up in your home. You don't go out. It's hard because you don't know. For the most part, most of us in America have to wear a mask and follow these rules. We don't live around in this oblivious world where we go to our hate mongering rallies and sit there and just be like, hey, we hate America, I'm not going to wear my mask. We actually care. So it puts us in a dark spot because we're like, we just want everybody to be safe. We take the 212,000 people who have died from COVID and we put them in our hearts, and it's scary because you don't want to get COVID. You're trying to hope a loved one doesn't get it. We've had several members of our family get COVID. Now you have the smallest deed. What was your inspiration in doing that? Because it's got that vibe of paying it forward, which I totally dig. It's kind of like that thing when you go to Starbucks, which we no longer do, but when we did go to Starbucks, you would buy, like I always like to buy the person's coffee behind me, or we've done that in grocery stores. It always feels good when you see somebody kind of, especially like a single mom or something. My wife always is like, you're so nice. I'm like, I just get where it's at. If somebody would have done that to me, it would put, it's like that dopamine, and you're a runner, so you'll get this, and I'm a big time, I love fitness, and I'm a daily Peloton guy. That dopamine that you get when you're done with a workout, paying it forward to me feels that good. It's like, it's almost better than like closing a really big deal or doing anything great. It's almost like you're walking on it. You're like, I did something good. How do I sleep at night? Really darn well, because I know I helped somebody. So what was your inspiration in creating this?
Well, there are two pieces to it. The first is that I'm politically oriented, and I thought that there ought to be something out there that was fun and was trying to make a difference, especially where I'm at in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. But the other part is one of my children is African American, and with him, we've experienced moments of racial injustice, let's say that way. When he was in aftercare, in kindergarten as an aftercare student, he'd never had a problem. In first grade, when a new teacher showed up, all of a sudden every week he was in trouble. And I started bringing complaints about this to the administration of the center. And after several months and a couple of really extreme incidents where he literally picked up my son forcefully and carried him through a bus one time, the administration refused to do anything about it. They said, maybe this isn't the right place for your son. And we had been there with my older son and all my kids. I have 3 kids. All had been there. We've been there for years. That was a really eye-opening moment of how ingrained some of this racial prejudice is sometimes. And so I woke up to it. I started paying attention and realized that this is a big deal. And the hard part is that growing up the way I grew up in the South, white, I don't realize everything. And I was a business school major, so that's even worse, right? So what I have spent the last decade of my life doing is really trying to understand that perspective, especially through my son's life. It's helped a lot. So in this series that we're creating, it's called Right in the Left Lane. The Small Seed is the name of the company. Right in the Left Lane deals with racial injustice and deals with the partisan politics that we have, and makes it fun and shows a couple of points of view that hopefully people can take home with them and make them think a little.
I love that. I mean, I don't love racial injustice, so don't get me wrong. I'm not like, I love racial injustice. No, it's unfortunate. South Carolina, kind of everybody from the movies. I mean, I grew up in Orlando and drove up. My grandparents lived in Beaufort, South Carolina, so I've spent some time of a little bit of everywhere. Obviously, there's a Marine Corps depot there. I've heard a lot from my friends who were stationed in South Carolina. I was not. I was stationed in San Diego and Hawaii. So California, we actually understand it's a gigantic melting pot, and we're not weird. In Hawaii, well, we're not original there, and we stick out as, white dudes with short hair. We're not from there. We're mainland people as it is. So, there is no racism there because everybody's there. It's such a, always being around it. But South Carolina, it's been in the news a lot. I mean, number one, probably my least favorite, well, there's a list of least favorite Republicans, but Lindsey Graham was doing this staged event called the Supreme Court nomination, and I won't go too far into that, but that's an interesting woman. But he said something where he said he missing the good old days of segregation, right? And the way he said that made you think that they're kind of agree with what you're seeing right in your, in your backyard. And South Carolina shouldn't say that. South Carolina is infamous for the start of the Civil War happening, first shot fired from Moultrie to Fort Sumter. I'm a history guy, can you tell?
Straight to sea, yes.
Yeah, I've sailed around it. I physically have seen it. Also, for those of you who are history buffs like me, Chief Osceola from the Osceola Indians from out of Florida, where the Florida State Seminoles get their name from, Seminole Indians, was actually imprisoned at Fort Moultrie to kind of show you, if you want to put it all together. So social justice in our country is interesting during this election, and it's come up a lot. From the President of the United States gassing peaceful protesters so he can walk across the street and put a Bible upside down and be around white people and then share out loud in some sort of belief that he has done more for black people than anybody, than maybe, I love that, he adds maybe, the man who freed the slaves, he didn't do a lot, maybe Abraham Lincoln. And now you having a son that has to deal with this, it's disgusting to have to deal with this racism and I'm saying this as a, white dude in his 40s, hearing about this makes my blood boil, that there's people who are so close-minded towards this. I mean, growing up, I didn't see a lot of racism. The racism I saw was towards the LGBTQ. See, I say them all, unlike Tiffany Trump, who doesn't know all of them. Sorry, I'm going to get my jabs in wherever I can.
Yes.
Always, we'll get jabs. Hold on, I'll be here all day. But that was what we saw growing up, right? It was, AIDS was something that was out there. And then now racism has flared its ugly head again. And it's scary because I have kids. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. My other two in their 20s, and they see it and they don't like it. Obviously, we live in Portland, Oregon, so it's a little different. To us, we don't tolerate racism. We hate it. We believe that black lives do matter, that police do need to be reformed. Folks in our show, trust me, we don't have anybody on here who's like, no, all lives matter. We don't put those guests on my show because I laugh at them. I do. I told them, it's like all buildings mattered on 9/11. So, how do we fix this social justice problem? How do we bring attention? Because there's one side, those of us who seem to have brains, believe that there is a problem, Kevin, that there's always been a problem. To go around with a slogan on a hat that says, "Make America Great Again," that would be that sometime in our history, America was great. Well, people who have been oppressed, Native Americans in our country, people have been oppressed for years. Women voting, that was a weird thing. Taking, even as the 50s and 60s, people believe women belong in the kitchen. We saw it at debates 2 weeks ago, the way that Mike Pence spoke to Kamala Harris and the moderator. We've seen it even before this debate coming up for the president, where they are attacking this Latino woman because her parents donated to the Democratic Party, and they're saying that she's not qualified. Social justice is done right in front of us. The difference is in 2020, we see it. Now, how do we change that? How do we get more people to see our narrative and not go, all lives matter?
So, living in South Carolina, I get to hear all of the arguments about why we're wrong. Majority of my peers have a different perspective than we do. And when I talk about, for example, we're both fans of the West Wing, they just see that as liberal trash. They don't even watch it. So the only way to get there is to give them information in a way they can digest it. And that's totally different, which is why we created Right in the Left Lane the way we did. It's a comedy that has Republicans and Democrats mixed together, and we see some Republican points of view. So that gives them the opportunity to say, yeah, this is funny, I like it. It says some things I don't necessarily agree with, but, and if we can show them a few things that they don't necessarily agree with, but it makes them just think a little bit, and we've taken one baby step toward a new idea, a new perspective. And so I really believe that comedy is one of the ways to do that. There are other people who have different ideas, but this is my way.
So Kevin, off of that, kiddingly, I'm saying this, so don't take offense, because I know your project drops really soon. For this is something almost out of like Cliff Notes for like the left and the right, to kind of see where we're going. Because don't get me wrong, there's people on the left that I think are crazy. They're just as nuts as the alt-right. The alt-left is just as nuts. Trust me, they're all here in Portland. All of them are here on both sides. They have gigantic parties here, and we get world attention because of it. I mean, for, left and right, love the name, by the way. I mean, how do you tell your kids about that, right? That's obviously, having a mixed family is amazing. Yes. I mean, it shouldn't be, it's weird to say that. I just said that for people playing at home so they can go look at your Instagram and see that themselves. But, number one, we shouldn't have a mixed family. I've always hated that, and I came from a divorced family, so that was like a blended family. I don't think anybody needs to say that, and I know even people brought it up, and I've seen some very alt-right people not happy with this Supreme Court nominee because her family's mixed too, and they're like, it's the way they say it that I still think we have a lot of growth doing. So I think what you're doing is great, but we need to get to a place where people don't need to go, and she has a black son. And it's like,
right.
Really? Does that matter? Because to me, at the end of the day, it doesn't. It's like, great, she has a family. That's good for her. I'm glad that she has a family. It shouldn't be like, psst, she has a black son, in case you didn't notice. I'm like, I can see he's walking right there. I'm cool. I'm not dumb. All eyeballs are working. So, what do you tell your kids as you're building this? Obviously, they know you're doing this. So how do you tell them, and how do they respond? They look, how old are your kids? I was just stalking you on Instagram. It's the only reason why I asked.
Oh, sure. We have a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 18-year-old.
Okay, so obviously they're in the know on what's going on. How do you explain it to them? You've got this production. Here you are, you're doing this. You and I obviously see eye to eye on everything. So how do you explain America, October 2020?
Well,
loaded question, I know.
You have kids. It's different for each child. My 18-year-old and I went to a couple of Black Lives Matter protests and were participating in that. It was actually his idea. Julian, who's my African-American child, he and I discussed the program because I told him he's part of the inspiration for it. He's the reason I have taken this journey. A little history there. While we were looking to adopt, when we were given the opportunity to adopt Julian, it was a step for me. It was a leap for me to say, yes, I want a mixed racial family. That a lot of people will say, oh, it's no big deal, but it's something we had to think about. It's something I had to think about and say, should I do this? And I realized that just my hesitation showed that I wasn't representing, or I wasn't the person that I was representing. I'm not racial, I don't see color, and yet here I was hesitating. So I jumped in with both feet, and it's been an amazing experience, and I love my son to death. And then my daughter's 10. She doesn't really understand a lot of this. Mostly she just gets excited because one of the characters is her name, Sophie. That's the number.
I love that. See, they all, that's what you got to love about kids. Each one is different. We had that in our house when we voted the other night. It was a weird night. It was almost like Christmas. Like sometimes we put the Christmas story on during Christmas time. We're wrapping gifts or doing a tree. We put on the West Wing reunion special that's on HBO. You let it all out. I think everybody knows I'm a huge. Yeah. It's really good, and we watched it, and we sat down, and I called both my kids down that live in the house, and I was like, "Hey guys, Logan is my 13-year-old, the youngest in the family, and my daughter Madison, she's 16, she's co-creator of the show, by the way, so she gets the credit of it. She came up with it in March. We came up with this in tears. To me, no, I wasn't crying; she was crying. Figuring out how we could get good, positive news out. Which that's a whole nother thing, and I'm going to lead with that next before you go. But we sat down and we voted together. I brought him in. My 13-year-old, he just wanted to get back up whatever he was blowing up or doing in his room on his Xbox or gaming. 13-year-olds, they do 13-year-old stuff that we all do when we're 13-year-olds. He'll sit down and watch The Office with me, and then we watched Family Guy together the other day, and it was that weird moment where I decided my maturity level is the same as my 13-year-old because I'm cracking up at the jokes on Family Guy.
You're laughing at the same jokes, yes.
And he's laughing too, but we voted to get, like my son, they watched. And it was so cool to see this generation where I never saw my parents do that. I didn't go to the polling place with them. To share this experience with them is amazing because they've seen this world. They've seen it this year. They hear the frustration. They hear how it polarizes families where people are on one side or the other, where people won't talk to us because the four of us went to a Black Lives Matter protest. My children saw firsthand what racism was when a man drove down the street and called us all dirtbags and, a few other lovely names and then sped off after he flipped us off. Lovely gentleman, by the way. So they got to see that. But at the same time, my children got to see an amazing thing. An African-American man was walking down with his family. He had his cell phone out. Sorry, I get a little choked up about this because it's powerful. He's walking and he's live on some social streaming. And he's talking to his son, but he's sharing this. He goes, I have to share this with you. He's like, look at all these white people, and they're here holding signs that say Black Lives Matter. That's freaking powerful because he never saw that before. It's troubling because I'm in my 40s. It's troubling because it took till 2020 for this to happen. Now, that's my goal in life. I served my country. I love my country. Do I think it's great? Absolutely not. I don't. I'm proud of America because we're awesome. I'm not proud of the way we treat our own people. We've done it our entire lives, and then people are like, no, we don't. It's great. I'm like, no. Hundreds of years of treating a culture like crap and injustice and imprisoning and suppressing votes doesn't make you good. I hate to say it. You deal with it. Like, you sit here and I'm so like, I want to support your project so much. I mean, we're going to blow this up everywhere because it's so important. People need to understand that they have a voice and that people like you are out there sharing it firsthand experience. And your child should not have to go through that. No child should have to go through that. The form of bullying from Trump's goons continues on. That's what they are. They're not people. They're goons. There's no other word for it. Goons. And I know they don't like it. And you can send your complaints to hello@tothepointtv.com. Make sure you leave all of them there. The good ones we'll read out loud if you want. Just, if you're racist, make sure leave all your proud stuff that you need to put out there. You're a goon. If you go after a little boy or a little girl because of the color of their skin or their parents or anything, you're a goon. Like, there's nothing else beyond that. So, obviously we keep mentioning, so you have a crowdfunding project. Is it currently going or is it getting ready to go?
Getting ready.
So tell us a little bit about that so folks can go and what they can do, because I know it's the one thing I will say. 99% of our viewers are the most amazing people out there, and they totally support what we're going to do. So
awesome.
I'm going to put the pressure on them. So how can they support you?
So Right in the Left Lane is the name of the web series. It's 5 episodes, and we're doing a crowdfunding project on a platform called Seed and Spark. Okay. So if you go there, you just look for Right in the Left Lane, click on it, see what we're doing, and make a contribution that fits fits what you can do. It's that simple.
I love it. So before you go, I got questions for you because I'm enjoying this.
Thanks.
We kind of get a little bit of everybody on this show, and you're like the Richard Herman of my show. I love Richard. 21 years as the CNN legal analyst. And let's just say he's pretty colorful when it comes to this election, and I love him because of it. And clearly you and I get along on this. Where do we go from here? If you were to sit down with a group full of Gen Zers, we both have Gen Zs, and younger, and you sit down and you explain, I've had to do this, so I'm going to ask it to you. Explaining to my children when I say, make America great again, makes me cringe. It's not the people. It's the belief that our country has been great at any one time. Yeah, we've had wars and we've won, but people died. But at the same time, the same people we've asked to go fight those wars, people of color, women, even the Japanese, were interned. Internment is another word for concentration, just so anybody wants to play the word internment camp. We can Americanize it all you want, folks. Internment, look it up. It goes along with concentration. It's the same. We just didn't gas people. That's the only thing that's different. Let's just be clear. We're not like, we have a history lesson. How would you explain where we go from here to Gen Z and younger? What is the next generation called? Do we even have a name for our...
Yeah, how do you get past Z?
I don't know. I mean, we kind of screwed ourselves with that because we went with Gen X automatically, baby boomer to Gen X. And I'm like, we missed all these other easy opportunities. We could have been good for decades. I mean, we didn't think this through. We're like, we went from X to Z. We didn't even get Y. We said, no, not Gen Y, but baby boomers, way up in B's. Millennial, we went to M. X. So we went back to M. Are we just maybe we'll just move around. I don't know who's in charge of it. It's the same guy with the hurricanes. I'm pretty sure. It's like we're gonna name
That's
it
right.
Delta. So no, go back. That's the final. That's what I got for you, and we'll close out after this. But how do you explain where we go from here?
Well, one of the biggest helps will be nationalized healthcare, if we can ever pull that off, because that levels the playing field on so many levels, so many areas. It helps small business. It helps workers, because right now people are staying at jobs simply because they have health insurance there and they can't switch. Small businesses have trouble getting employees because they can't offer the same health care as large businesses. They have trouble attracting just all sorts of small business would be helped. And small business is small America, which helps everything. Also, your workers. What I want to stress, though, is that that's not the final piece. We also have to deal with the fact and educate people that racial injustice has been happening and put it black and white so people understand. Realize that the New Deal, which I thought was a great thing, actually segregated black out of it, and it only helped white Americans. That was a revelation I've learned in the past 2 years.
I love it.
So we need a program that help everybody, and realize that also the trickle-down economics that we started with Reagan, we've proven over 40 years that that doesn't work, because the rich are getting richer because they hold on to their money. We need an economic policy that taxes the rich and brings money back down into the middle and lower class, because guess what? Those people spend every penny they get because they don't have extra income. They need everything they can to survive. And that is what really helps the economy. So those are both more monetary, but they both help.
Yeah, that's you hit the nail on the head. I'm sitting over here like, amen, brother, putting my fist in the air right with you, because it's what we need. And I'm thinking at the same time, I can hear the counter argument to the rich getting richer. And we're saying this as of right now, as we record this, there's been no stimulus package, but dang it, we're going to get somebody on that Supreme Court bench, because that's, I guess, a priority, not making sure our small businesses stay alive and people have food on their table as we go into the holiday season. I think that's something people need to consider. I think that leads into, as we close this out, I think we both agree, make sure you go out, rock that vote on November 3rd, vote, and vote, because that's the only way you have a voice in this country, and this is how we make change. And folks like Kevin here, Kevin Schumacher, my friend, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been powerful. I didn't mean to get emotional earlier, but just talking about what's going on here, it's heartbreaking as somebody who served his country, and seeing great Americans like you bringing up these, bubbling to the surface, things that need to be talked about, and people need to be able to realize that this is a conversation we need to have. We need to have these uncomfortable Americana conversations. Not everything is a Rockefeller, it's not like, oh, look, it's great. Look at that little boy. Yeah, it's not that way. So, sorry. Always humor around here. So, Kevin, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We'll have to have you back on really soon, because this has been great. We're going to have all the information to your crowdfund available. If you're watching on C-Suite TV and YouTube, make sure you scroll down. You'll see the link there. If you can't see it, find it, please message myself or the team on social media. You can find it. You'll see us promoting it across all of our social media, because you want to go out, and I encourage you to support it.
Thank you.
That's what we do. So, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us, and have yourself a great day.
Thank you, Eric. Enjoyed it very much.
And we are back. Amazing interviews today. Thank you both, Mike and Kevin, for joining our show. That's a Tuesday, folks. That's what we have for you. It's Tuesday. Put a bow on it. Call it done. Boop. That's where we're at. I want to thank our guests today again for joining us. It's amazing how we just keep getting quality guests. A great Tuesday. Completely off the topic. I know we went political with Kevin. With Mike, we didn't. So see, look, we traded off. It's not always politics every day. Again, if you know somebody or have a complaint, or you'd like to be a guest on our show, go ahead and hit us up at hello@tothepointtv.com. That's hello@tothepointtv.com. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we're on every social media outlet except Pinterest, MySpace, TikTok, and Snapchat. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not very coordinated, so you don't want me dancing on Snapchat. I'm pretty sure my team doesn't want me dancing on Snapchat. That's not good. And TikTok, I can't get into that. I don't know why. I try. I suck at it. It was like, it's a time suck for me. It's truly what it is. Anyways, we have a great show for you tomorrow. Excited to bring both those guests to you. So we have a great Wednesday show for you. I can't wait to do it. So enjoy your Tuesday evening, folks. We'll keep it brief tonight. So enjoy your Tuesday evening. Remember, if you haven't voted, go vote. And remember, November 3rd, folks, vote, vote, vote. It doesn't matter who you vote for. Just make sure you rock the vote, because we need to have our voices heard. That's how we make change in America, is by using our voice. You can't do it from the sidelines, folks. Go do that amazing thing that other people in other countries actually would die for. Hey, it's cool to vote. You should vote. And don't have to worry about voter suppression. Don't have to worry about voting fraud. It just doesn't happen. It's just all smoke and mirrors. So don't worry about that. Go do your thing. So, as always, on behalf of the entire To The Point team, we want to thank you for tuning in today. And I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe. Be strong, be smart, and God bless America.
Get to the point, sit and enjoy. This is Eric Mitchell, he the host of the show. Get to the point, he is the voice. We needed this, something more. This is a daily show that's known for politics and the sports. Ain't no limit to whoever you may see at this point. To celebrities, Eric, he's beast in the joint. As a veteran, put him at ease, then anoint. Every conversation can never be disappointed. Whether tragic or it's happy, Eric will cover whatever's happening. Whether it be your gymnast, toe tapping, talking about nearly any athlete, not taking a back seat. You're never gonna get it past T. Everybody running from it, it's a stampede. But he's on it like this man who took that knee. Mr. Mitchell's way too crafty. Get to the point.